The conference hall on Harmony Prime stretched wider than any building on Earth. Floating platforms held delegates from 40 different species, each more alien than the last. Some had scales, others had fur or feathers. A few existed as clouds of gas contained in transparent suits. They all gathered for one purpose: to discuss the newest species that had achieved faster-than-light travel. Humans. Velcrath stood at the center platform, his silver scales reflecting the station's artificial light. As Council Prime, he led these meetings with absolute authority. His species had dominated galactic politics for 3,000 years. He believed he understood every type of civilization that could possibly exist. "The evidence is clear," Velcrath announced, his voice translating automatically into 40 languages. "These humans are a deeply traumatized species. They fear their own capacity for violence." Holographic displays showed images from Earth. Videos of peace protests filled the air. Humans marching with signs demanding an end to wars. Children singing songs about harmony. Politicians giving speeches about disarmament. Documentary footage about the horrors of past conflicts. "Look at their entertainment," a delegate from the Hive Collective chittered, the insectoid being pointed at movie clips showing war as tragedy, not glory. "They create stories warning against violence. They show war as something to be avoided at all costs." Another display showed human philosophy. Quotes from Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and other peace advocates scrolled past. The council members studied them carefully. "They even destroyed their own weapons," Velcrath continued. "After creating bombs powerful enough to eliminate their species, they began dismantling them." "What warrior race does this?" "A broken one," another delegate suggested. "They have scared themselves into pacifism." The council murmured agreement. It made sense to them. Humanity had clearly fought terrible wars throughout their history. The scars ran deep. Now they desperately wanted peace because they understood how awful war could be. "They will need our protection," Velcroth decided. "I propose we grant them protected status. They are too fragile to navigate galactic politics alone." The vote passed unanimously. 40 species agreed that humans needed to be treated carefully, like children who had touched fire and learned to fear it. 3 days later, Captain Daesung guided his ship, the Odyssey, toward Harmony Prime. He stood on the bridge, watching the massive station grow larger through the viewport. His crew worked quietly around him, checking systems and preparing for humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization. "It's beautiful," whispered Jihei, standing beside him. As Earth's chief ambassador, she had studied alien languages and customs for 2 years, preparing for this moment. "Hard to believe we're really here." Daesung nodded. He had flown missions in Earth's orbit for a decade. But this felt different. Everything humanity did in the next few hours would shape their future among the stars. "Remember the briefing," he said quietly. "We listen more than we talk. We learn before we act." Jihei smiled. Patience and observation. Very human traits. The Odyssey docked smoothly. Daesung and Jihei walked through corridors filled with beings that would have seemed impossible just years ago. Some delegates towered 3 meters tall. Others barely reached their knees. The diversity was overwhelming. Velcrath greeted them personally, which Jihei recognized as a significant honor. His translator converted his words into Korean. "Welcome, Ambassador Jihei. Captain Daesung. We are pleased to meet humanity at last." Jihei bowed respectfully, a gesture she knew worked across many cultures. "The honor is ours, Council Prime. Earth is grateful for this opportunity." They entered the Great Hall. Jihei felt 40 species watching her, studying her reactions. She kept her expression calm and open. Velcrath began the formal presentation. "Humanity has achieved faster-than-light capability, a momentous achievement. The Galactic Council wishes to welcome you into our community." "We accept with gratitude," Jihei responded. "However," Velcrath continued, "we recognize that your species has endured great trauma. Your history shows extensive warfare, followed by a strong rejection of violence. This is understandable." Dae-sung and Ji-hye exchanged glances. This wasn't the angle they had expected. "We appreciate your concern," Ji-hye said carefully. "Therefore," Velkrath announced, "the Council has voted to grant humanity protected status. You will join the galactic community as a ward species. We will guide you, help you establish peaceful colonies, and ensure you are not pressured into conflicts that might trigger unfortunate responses." Osei, Ji-hye processed this quickly. Protected status meant humanity would have limited autonomy. They would be treated as junior members, incapable of making certain decisions without council approval. It also meant they would be forbidden from maintaining military forces beyond basic police functions. She could refuse, she could argue. But Earth's government had given her clear instructions. Learn first. Negotiate later. Don't make enemies on the first day. The Council's wisdom is clear, Ji-hye said, bowing again. Humanity accepts this generous offer. We have much to learn about galactic civilization. We welcome your guidance as we find our place among the stars. Velkrath seemed pleased. Several delegates made approving gestures in their various ways. Excellent. We will assign colony worlds for human settlement, frontier territories where you can develop without pressure. Agricultural worlds, primarily. We believe your species will thrive in peaceful farming communities. Dae-sung kept his face neutral, but Ji-hye knew what he was thinking. The Council saw humans as simple farmers who needed protection from the harsh realities of galactic politics. They had completely misunderstood Earth's acceptance of their offer. The ceremony continued for another hour. Various delegates approached to greet the human representatives. Most spoke to them the way adults speak to children, with exaggerated patience and simplified language. Later, aboard the Odyssey, Dae-sung and Ji-hye reviewed the day. "They think we're helpless," Dae-sung said. "They think we're traumatized," Ji-hye corrected. "They watched our media and saw peace movements. They didn't understand context. They don't realize that our capacity for peace comes from strength, not weakness. Should we correct them?" Ji-hye considered this. "Not yet. Let them believe what they want to believe. We'll build our colonies, establish our presence, and learn everything we can about how galactic politics actually work. When the time comes, they'll understand us better. And if trouble finds us before then?" Ji-hye looked out at the stars. "Then they'll learn faster than they expect." Unknown to both of them, on the far edge of the station, another ship watched the proceedings. War Master Thrak of the Krevnak Empire studied the human delegates with interest. His species had been rejected by the Council years ago for being too aggressive, too violent, too uncivilized. Now he watched the Council fawn over another species, treating them with care and respect. Weak species. Pacifist species. Easy prey. Thrak made a note in his personal log. These humans would establish colonies in frontier space. Far from Council protection. Far from help, his ships could strike quickly, take slaves, and vanish before anyone noticed. The Council would protest. But they always did. They never actually did anything about it. A slow smile crossed Thrak's face. The humans would learn what the galaxy was really like. And the Council would learn, once again, that their pretty words meant nothing against real power. He signaled his fleet. There was planning to do. 6 months had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. 3 colony ships had departed Earth, each carrying 10,000 people to new worlds. The Council had selected the planets carefully, choosing locations they deemed safe and suitable for a species they considered fragile. Commander Hyun-sik stood on the surface of New Jeju, named after an island back on Earth. The sky was purple instead of blue, and the grass grew in shades of orange, but the air was breathable, and the soil was fertile. His people had built a settlement that already housed 8,000 colonists. The Council representatives who visited last month had seemed surprised by their progress. Humans had constructed buildings, established farms, and set up infrastructure faster than expected. The representatives attributed this to desperation rather than competence. Survival instinct. One delegate had explained to Hyun-sik, patting his shoulder in what was probably meant to be a comforting gesture. Your species works hard because you fear failure. We understand. Hyun-sik hadn't bothered correcting them. Let them think what they wanted. Dr. Nari worked in the xenobiology lab on the colony's northern edge. She had spent months studying the various alien species in the galactic database, learning everything she could about their biology, culture, and history. The Council had provided the information freely, pleased that humans showed interest in peaceful scientific pursuits. What Nari found in the historical records troubled her deeply. She pulled up file after file showing the same pattern. The Krevnak Empire, a species the Council had rejected 50 years ago, had been raiding frontier colonies for decades. They would strike quickly, take prisoners, and disappear before anyone could respond. The captives became slaves in the Krevnak industrial complexes. The Council knew about this. Their records documented every raid, but they did nothing. The natural order of things. Read one official statement. Species must learn to defend themselves, or accept the consequences. Nari stared at those words for a long time. Then she composed a detailed report and sent it through official channels to the Council headquarters. The response came 3 days later. A brief message thanking her for her concern, followed by an explanation that frontier space had always been dangerous. The Council could not protect everyone. Species needed to either develop adequate defenses or settle in safer regions. They're saying we're on our own, Nari told Hyun-sik when she showed him the response. Hyun-sik read the message twice. We need weapons, defense systems. I already submitted a request. The Council denied it. On what grounds? Nari pulled up the official response. They're concerned that giving us weapons might lead to accidents. They believe we might harm ourselves due to our species' historical trauma with violence. Hyun-sik laughed, but there was no humor in it. They think we're children who can't be trusted with sharp objects. What do we do? Hyun-sik looked out the window at the growing colony. Families lived here. Children played in the orange grass. People had left Earth to build a new future. He had a responsibility to protect them. I'll send a message to Earth, he said. Request guidance from the military command. The response from Earth was brief and encoded. Admiral Taeyong himself replied with simple instructions. Maintain appearances, continue building, report any threats immediately. Help would come if needed. Hyun-sik noticed the message didn't say where the help would come from. Earth was months away at current travel speeds. How could they help if trouble came? He filed the question away and focused on more immediate concerns. 2 months later, the Krevnak came. Hyun-sik was reviewing agricultural reports when the alarms started. 45 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They were massive vessels, built for war, bristling with weapons that the colony's sensors could barely classify. Get everyone to shelters, Hyun-sik ordered immediately. Send distress signals to the Council and Earth. Full priority. The communications officer worked frantically. Council frequency is open. Transmitting now. The Krevnak ships approached slowly, clearly confident in their overwhelming advantage. The lead vessel was 5 times larger than any building on New Jeju. Hyun-sik opened a channel. This is Commander Hyun-sik of the human colony New Jeju. We are a civilian settlement. We have no military capability. Please state your intentions. The response came in heavily accented but understandable language. Your people will make excellent workers. Surrender now, and casualties will be minimal. We are under Galactic Council protection. Laughter cut him off. The Council does nothing. They talk and debate while we act. Prepare for boarding. The first Krevnak landing craft launched. Hyun-sik watched them descend toward the colony. He had 3,000 people in shelters. 5,000 still evacuating. The colony had some mining equipment that could potentially be weaponized, but against 45 warships, it would be meaningless. The distress signal was still broadcasting. They came without warning. We have civilians trapped. A massive impact rocked the communications building. The signal cut off. Hyun-sik grabbed his emergency kit and ran toward the shelters. He had to protect as many people as he could until help arrived. If help arrived, the Krevnak warriors were larger than humans. with thick, armor-like skin and natural weapons. They moved through the colony streets in organized formations. Hyun-sik and his security team tried to slow them down, but they only had basic weapons meant for wildlife control. It was like fighting a tank with a pistol. Hyun-sik fell back to Shelter Complex 7, where 2,000 civilians huddled in underground chambers. He sealed the doors and prepared for the worst. On the council station Harmony Prime, Velkrath received the distress signal. He immediately convened an emergency session. "The humans are under attack," he announced. "The Krevnak have struck their colony on New Jeju." The delegates erupted in discussion. Some demanded immediate action, others cautioned patience. The debate stretched on for hours, while, light years away, people fought and died. "We should send peacekeepers," suggested Rixva, a delegate who had always been sympathetic to younger species. "The journey will take days," Velkrath replied. "By then, the situation will have resolved itself, one way or another. Then those people will die or be enslaved. Perhaps this is a lesson they need to learn," another delegate said coldly. "We warned them that frontier space was dangerous." The debate continued. Vote after vote failed to reach consensus. The council, as it always did when faced with actual violence, chose to do nothing but talk. Meanwhile, Captain Dae-sung stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, which had been in Earth's orbit for maintenance. His crew worked at maximum speed, preparing the ship for emergency departure. "How long to reach New Jeju?" he demanded. "At maximum speed, 4 days," his navigator replied. 4 days, Dae-sung repeated. "Too long. Far too long. Sir, we're receiving a coded transmission from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Tae-yang is..." The communications officer paused, reading the message. Her eyes widened. "Sir, the Admiral's fleet is already en route. They'll reach New Jeju in 6 hours. Dae-sung stared at her. "What fleet? Earth doesn't have a military fleet in that sector." The communications officer handed him the decoded message. Dae-sung read it twice. Earth had been building warships since first contact. Quietly, carefully, using automated shipyards in the outer solar system, where the Council's monitoring was minimal. Not merchant vessels converted for defense. Not police cutters with added weapons. Real military warships, designed for combat, crewed by experienced personnel. And apparently, Admiral Tae-yang had positioned 12 of them in nearby systems, ready to respond to exactly this kind of emergency. Dae-sung felt a cold satisfaction settle in his chest. The Council thought humans were peaceful farmers who needed protection. They were about to learn otherwise. On New Jeju, Hyun-sik heard explosions in the distance. The Krevnak were breaching the other shelters. It was only a matter of time before they reached his position. He held his weapon and waited. Then something changed. The explosions stopped. The sounds of Krevnak warriors shouting to each other fell silent. New sounds emerged. Different weapons. Human voices giving orders in Korean. The shelter door opened. A woman in military armor stood there, her insignia marking her as a lieutenant in Earth's Defense Force. "Commander Hyun-sik?" she asked. "Yes, Lieutenant Unha, Earth Defense Force. The Admiral sends his regards. The colony is secure. You can bring your people out now." Hyun-sik followed her outside. The purple sky was filled with human ships. The Galactic Council's peacekeeping fleet arrived at New Jeju 3 days after the attack. Velkrath expected to find destroyed settlements, traumatized survivors, and perhaps Krevnak ships still looting the colony. He had prepared a speech about the dangers of frontier space and the importance of settling in safer regions. What he found instead made no sense. The colony was intact. Buildings stood undamaged. Farms continued to operate. Civilians walked the streets normally, though many wore expressions of shock. The purple sky was clear, except for one thing that made Velkrath's blood run cold: debris. Massive fields of debris orbiting the planet. Metal fragments, hull plating, and pieces of Krevnak warships drifted in slowly expanding clouds. "How many ships did the Krevnak lose?" Velkrath asked his tactical officer. The officer checked the readings 3 times before answering. "All of them, Council Prime. 45 vessels, Complete destruction. That's impossible. Who destroyed them? According to our scans, humans did. Velcroth looked at his officer. The colony had no weapons. We specifically denied their request for defense systems. Not the colony, sir. Those ships. The officer highlighted 12 vessels in orbit around New Jeju. They were clearly human in design, matching the basic aesthetic of the Odyssey. But they were different. Larger. Heavily armed. These were not exploration vessels or colony transports. These were warships. A communication channel opened. A human face appeared on the screen, a man wearing a military uniform that the Council had never seen before. Council Prime Velcroth, this is Admiral Tae Young of the Earth Defense Force. Welcome to New Jeju. Velcroth struggled to maintain his composure. Admiral, Earth does not have a military structure. You are a peaceful species under Council protection. Tae Young smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We have always had a military structure, Council Prime. You simply never asked about it. You destroyed 45 Krevnak warships. They attacked our colony. We responded appropriately. The Council ships moved closer to examine the debris fields. Limtar, the Council's military observer, studied the tactical data and felt his confidence in understanding warfare crumble. The battle had lasted less than 2 hours. The Krevnak had outnumbered the human ships nearly 4-1. They had more weapons, more armor, and centuries of combat experience. By every logical calculation, they should have won. Instead, they had been annihilated. Limtar replayed the battle recordings captured by automated sensors. He watched human ships move in patterns he had never seen before. They coordinated perfectly, each vessel supporting the others, adapting to Krevnak tactics in real time. When the Krevnak tried to overwhelm a single human ship, the others shifted position to create crossfire. When the Krevnak attempted a pincer movement, the humans broke formation and regrouped before the trap could close. It was like watching master musicians perform a complex symphony. Every move had purpose. Every shot counted. They're not just warriors, Limtar whispered to himself. They're artists of warfare. Velcroth demanded to meet with Admiral Tae Young in person. The meeting took place aboard the Council flagship, with Ambassador Ji-hae also present. You hid your military capabilities from the Council, Velcroth accused. This is a violation of trust. Ji-hae spoke calmly. We hid nothing, Council Prime. You examined our culture and made assumptions. We never claimed to be defenseless. We never said we lacked military capability. You saw our peace movements and decided we were pacifists. That was your choice, not our deception. You should have corrected our understanding. Why? Tae Yang asked. You offered us protected status. You wanted to guide us, to help us learn. We accepted because we genuinely wanted to learn about galactic civilization. But we never stopped preparing for the possibility that we might need to defend ourselves. Velcroth felt his authority slipping. You built these warships in secret. We built them in the outer regions of our solar system, Ji-hae corrected. Your monitoring focused on Earth itself and the inner planets. Again, you made assumptions about where we would conduct our shipbuilding. We simply worked in locations you chose not to observe closely. Limtar spoke up. Your tactics, your coordination, the way your ships fought together. That level of skill requires decades of training and combat experience. Tae Yang nodded. Thousands of years, actually. Humans have been studying warfare for our entire history. We understand strategy, logistics, combined arms operations, psychological warfare, and countless other aspects of military science. We became very good at it because we fought each other for millennia. Then why do you promote peace? Velcroth demanded. Why the anti-war movements, the nuclear disarmament, the philosophical opposition to violence? Because we understand what war costs, Ji-hae said quietly. We know exactly how terrible it is. We've seen it destroy civilizations, kill billions, and leave scars that last generations. We value peace because we know the alternative so intimately. That's not weakness, Council Prime. That's wisdom. The room fell silent. "We prefer peace," Taeyang continued. "We truly do. But we will never be helpless again. The Krevnak attacked our people. They threatened our civilians. We responded with exactly the level of force necessary to eliminate the threat and ensure it never happens again." Velkrath tried to regain control of the situation. "The Council will impose sanctions. You have violated." "We have violated nothing," Jihei interrupted. "Your own laws permit member species to maintain defensive military forces. You denied us weapons, so we built our own. You placed us on frontier worlds knowing they were dangerous, so we prepared accordingly. Everything we did was within the legal framework you established. You could have warned us," Velkrath said, his voice losing its authority. "We tried," Jihei replied. Dr. Nari sent a detailed report about Krevnak raids 2 months ago. The Council's response told her to accept the natural order of things. You knew the threat existed. You chose not to act. Taeyang stood. "Council Prime, I'm going to be very clear. Earth values our relationship with the Galactic Council. We want to be part of this community. But we will not be victims. If other species threaten human colonies or human lives, we will respond, every time, without hesitation." He placed a data chip on the table. "This contains our complete tactical assessment of every Council member species, your military capabilities, your strategic vulnerabilities, and the most efficient ways to defeat you in combat. We're sharing this information to demonstrate that we're serious about defense, and to make it clear that we understand the galactic security environment better than you realized." Velkrath stared at the chip as if it were a venomous creature. "We're not seeking conflict," Jihei added. "But we're not afraid of it either. The Council can choose how to proceed. We'll adapt to whatever decision you make." The meeting ended in cold silence. Velkrath returned to his quarters and examined the data chip's contents. What he found was terrifying in its precision. The humans had analyzed every Council species' military doctrine. They had identified weaknesses that the Council's own strategists had never considered. They had calculated optimal attack patterns, supply chain vulnerabilities, and political pressure points. The analysis was comprehensive, detailed, and absolutely accurate. These weren't desperate survivors hoping for protection. These were predators who had temporarily chosen to act like prey. On the other side of the system, War Master Throck's flagship limped away from the battle site. He had escaped by pure luck, his ship damaged, and his pride shattered. His entire fleet was gone, thousands of warriors dead, hundreds of ships reduced to debris, all because he had thought humans were weak. Throck stared at the recordings of the battle. He watched his carefully planned attack fall apart as human ships moved with precision his warriors couldn't match. He watched his overwhelming numerical advantage mean nothing against opponents who understood warfare at a level his species had never achieved. The shame burned. But underneath the shame, something else grew. Rage. Pure, focused rage. He had been humiliated. His empire had been embarrassed. The entire galaxy would hear about this defeat. The Krevnak, feared warriors of the frontier, destroyed by a species the Council considered peaceful farmers. Throck made a decision. He would return home. He would rally every ship the Krevnak Empire possessed. And he would return to Earth itself with an armada so large that these humans could never stop it. Let them be skilled warriors. Numbers would overwhelm skill. 10,000 ships against whatever pathetic fleet Earth could muster. He would teach these humans what true war looked like. He would show the galaxy that the Krevnak Empire could not be humiliated without consequences. And then, when Earth burned, everyone would know that the old order still ruled the stars. The news spread through galactic civilization like wildfire. 45 Krevnak warships destroyed by 12 human vessels. A species the Council had classified as peaceful and traumatized had demonstrated military capability that rivaled the oldest warrior races. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. For 3 days, they debated what to do about humanity. Some species demanded that Earth be expelled for deception. Others argued that humans had broken no laws. The discussions grew heated as political alliances fractured and reformed. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Krevnak Empire mobilized. War Master Throck stood before the grand assembly of his people. His shame at New Jeju had been great, but he had transformed it into fury that his species understood and respected. They humiliated us, Throck declared. They destroyed our fleet and laughed at our strength. Will we accept this? No, the assembly roared. Will we let these newcomers believe they can challenge the Krevnak Empire without consequences? Never. Then we go to war. Not a raid, not a skirmish. Total war. We bring every ship, every warrior, every weapon we possess. We strike at the heart of their civilization. We burn Earth itself and show the galaxy what happens to those who dare to resist us. The assembly approved unanimously. Within days, the largest military mobilization in Krevnak history began. 10,000 warships gathered, pulling crews from every corner of the empire. This wasn't a raid for slaves or resources. This was a war of annihilation, driven by wounded pride and rage. On Harmony Prime, Counselor Rixva received intelligence reports about the Krevnak mobilization. She immediately brought the information to Velkrath. They're preparing to attack Earth, she said. 10,000 ships, Council Prime. The humans destroyed 45 vessels at New Jeju. But this is a completely different scale. Velkrath studied the reports. What does the Council propose? We're still debating. The vote has been delayed twice already. There's nothing to debate. This is a clear act of aggression against a Council member species. Rixva hesitated. Some delegates believe the humans brought this on themselves. They argue that if we intervene, we're rewarding deception. So we let Earth be destroyed to make a political point? I'm only reporting the positions being discussed. Velkrath felt tired. The Council was supposed to maintain peace and order. Instead, they spent weeks debating while real threats emerged. He had lost faith in the institution he had served for decades. On Earth, General Sang-ho stood in the command center deep beneath Seoul. Holographic displays showed the approaching Krevnak armada, 10,000 ships, moving in coordinated groups, all converging on the Sol system. Estimated time of arrival? Sang-ho asked. 7 days at their current speed, his tactical officer replied. Status of our forces? The officer pulled up fleet deployments. All military vessels are recalled and en route to Earth. Admiral Tae Yang reports, 12 ships from the New Jeju engagement will arrive in 4 days. We have another 48 ships in various systems. Total combat-ready vessels, 60 ships, 60 against 10,000. Sang-ho didn't smile, but his eyes gleamed. They think numbers are all that matter. Sir, we also have the civilian conversions ready. Another 200 vessels that weren't designed for combat but have been equipped with weapons. Good. What about the defense platforms? All orbital stations are armed and operational. We have 300 automated platforms positioned throughout the system. Lieutenant Yunha reports the fighter wings are ready. 3,000 pilots volunteered. Sang-ho walked to the main display. The Sol system was outlined in blue, with Earth at the center. Red icons showed the approaching Krevnak fleet. Numbers were against them. Heavily against them. But Sang-ho had studied military history his entire life. He knew that numbers alone didn't win wars. Strategy did. Adaptation did. Understanding your enemy's psychology and exploiting their assumptions did. Get me Dr. Nari, he ordered. An hour later, the xenobiologist appeared on his screen. General, how can I help? Your research on the Krevnak, their culture, their command structure. Tell me about their decision-making process. Nari pulled up her files. They have a rigid hierarchy. War masters make strategic decisions. Subordinate commanders follow orders absolutely. There's very little initiative at lower levels. They value obedience and strength above adaptability. So if we disrupt their command structure, the rest of the fleet becomes less effective? Theoretically, yes. But General, they have thousands of ships. Even disorganized, they could overwhelm through sheer numbers. Then we make sure they never get organized in the first place. Sang-ho turned to his staff. I want Engineer Somin brought in. We're going to need her experimental systems. Somin arrived within the hour. The young woman had spent 3 years developing AI-assisted warfare coordination systems, technology that the Council had specifically banned as too destabilizing. Earth had continued the research anyway, keeping it secret. The Council prohibited this technology, Somin said, because it allows smaller forces to coordinate with perfect efficiency. They were afraid it would make wars too easy to fight. Show me what it can do. Somin activated a simulation. 60 ships appeared on the display, facing 10,000. Without AI coordination, the battle was hopeless. The human fleet was simply overwhelmed. Then she activated the AI systems. The 60 ships began moving in patterns that seemed choreographed. They positioned themselves to maximize crossfire, created overlapping fields of fire, and adapted to enemy movements in real time. The simulation ran for 20 minutes. When it ended, 7,000 Krevnak ships were destroyed. The human fleet had lost 40 vessels. This is assuming the Krevnak fight predictably, Somin cautioned. If they adapt their tactics, results may vary. They won't adapt, Nari said confidently. Their entire culture punishes innovation. They'll stick to their proven strategies even when those strategies are failing. Quote, Sangho made his decision. Activate all AI coordination systems. I want every ship, every defense platform, every fighter linked into the network. We're going to show the Krevnak what happens when you bring overwhelming numbers against superior tactics. The Council finally held their vote on the 7th day of debate. Should they send military aid to defend Earth against the Krevnak invasion? Velkrath spoke passionately in favor. Earth is a council member. We have a responsibility to protect them. Other delegates disagreed. They deceived us about their capabilities. They should face the consequences of their actions. They deceived us about nothing, Rixva argued. We made assumptions and refused to question them. Our failure to understand them is not their fault. The vote came down. 12 species voted to send aid. 28 voted against or abstained. The Council would maintain official neutrality. Rixva left the chamber in disgust. She returned to her private quarters and composed an encrypted message. It contained everything the Council knew about Krevnak fleet composition, tactics, and strategic doctrine. She sent it directly to Ambassador Jihei on Earth. It was a violation of Council protocols. It could cost Rixva her position, but she couldn't stand by and watch a species be destroyed because the Council was too proud to admit their mistakes. On Earth, Jihei received the data and forwarded it immediately to General Sangho. The information confirmed much of what Dr. Nari had discovered, but it also revealed specific details about Krevnak command ships and communication systems. This changes things, Sangho told his staff. We know which ships are directing the fleet. If we eliminate them first, the rest will fall into chaos. The Krevnak armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. 10,000 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history, faced Earth's desperate defense. War Master Throck stood on his flagship's bridge, savoring the moment. He could see the human homeworld on his screens, a small blue marble surrounded by a pathetic defense. 60 warships, a few hundred defense platforms, swarms of tiny fighters. It was nothing. It was less than nothing. Begin the attack, Throck commanded. Destroy them all. The Krevnak fleet surged forward like a tidal wave, and in that moment, Lieutenant Yunha led her fighter wing out to meet them. General Sangho activated the AI coordination network, and Earth showed the galaxy what humanity had been preparing for since the moment they reached the stars. The greatest battle in galactic history had begun. The Battle of Sol began at the edge of human space and raged for 72 hours. Lieutenant Yunha led her fighter wing in the opening engagement. 3,000 small craft against the advancing Krevnak armada. It should have been suicide. But the fighters moved with inhuman precision. Each pilot linked through the AI coordination network. They struck like a swarm of hornets, targeting the Krevnak command ships. Nari's research had identified them. Rixva's intelligence confirmed their locations, and the AI network calculated the optimal attack patterns. Within the first hour, 43 command vessels were destroyed. The Krevnak fleet faltered. Without clear direction from war masters, subordinate commanders hesitated. The rigid hierarchy that gave them strength in normal battles became a weakness when the command structure fractured. Admiral Taeyong's warships exploited the confusion. 60 ships against thousands should have meant nothing. But the human vessels moved as a single organism. When Krevnak ships tried to surround one vessel, the others shifted position to create overlapping fields of fire. When the enemy attempted concentrated assaults, the human fleet dispersed and reformed before the attacks could land. The converted civilian ships joined the battle, vessels that had been cargo haulers and colony transports, now bristling with hastily mounted weapons. They weren't elegant or sophisticated, but they added firepower and numbers, forcing the Krevnak to split their attention. General Song-ho watched from Earth's command center as the battle unfolded. The AI network processed thousands of tactical decisions per second, coordinating movements across the entire system. Every human vessel, every defense platform, every fighter responded to the same strategic vision. "They're trying to break through to Earth," his tactical officer reported, "concentrating forces on the inner system. Let them come," Sang-ho ordered. "The closer they get, the more effective our fixed defenses become." The Krevnak pushed forward, losing ships with every kilometer but pressing on through sheer determination. 2,000 vessels had been destroyed in the first day alone, but 8,000 remained. They could still win through numbers if they reached Earth. They never made it. The defense platforms, 300 automated stations positioned throughout the system, activated as the Krevnak fleet entered range. Each platform contained weapons designed specifically for this scenario. Tested in secret for years, they fired in coordinated patterns, creating overlapping kill zones that the AI network optimized in real time. Krevnak ships exploded by the dozens, then by the hundreds. Their formation dissolved into chaos as captains tried to maneuver away from the devastating fire. But every direction they turned, human forces were waiting. War Master Throck watched his armada die around him. He couldn't understand what was happening. Every tactical decision he made seemed wrong. Every maneuver led his ships into worse positions. The humans anticipated his every move, countered his every strategy. "They're reading our minds," his second-in-command whispered. "Impossible," Throck snarled. But he was beginning to believe it. The truth was simpler. The Krevnak had fought the same way for centuries. Their tactics were predictable. Their strategies documented in the files Rixva had provided. The AI network analyzed their movements and predicted their decisions with 90% accuracy. It wasn't mind reading. It was understanding your enemy better than they understood themselves. On the second day, Throck tried to retreat. He ordered his remaining fleet to withdraw and regroup, but the human ships pursued relentlessly, striking at damaged vessels, eliminating stragglers, never giving the Krevnak time to organize. Captain Daesung's ship, the Odyssey, led the pursuit. His vessel wasn't a warship like Admiral Taeyong's command, but it had been upgraded during the battle preparations. Now it hunted through the debris fields, targeting Krevnak ships that tried to escape. "There." His tactical officer pointed to a massive vessel attempting to flee. "That's Throck's flagship." Daesung made a quick decision. "All ships, concentrate fire on that vessel. Disable it but don't destroy. I want Throck alive." The combined firepower of 20 human ships struck Throck's flagship. Engines failed. Weapons systems went offline. The great ship drifted, helpless and defeated. "Prepare boarding teams," Daesung ordered. "We're going in." The battle ended on the third day. 9,847 Krevnak ships had been destroyed. 153 had been captured intact, their crews taken prisoner. The rest had escaped into faster-than-light travel, fleeing back to their empire with tales of the slaughter. Earth had lost 40 ships and 72 defense platforms. 1,200 fighters had been destroyed. 15,000 humans had died defending their home. It was a terrible cost. But it was victory. The Galactic Council received the battle reports in stunned silence. Velkrath read the numbers 3 times, unable to believe them. Humanity had defended against the largest invasion fleet in galactic history, and won decisively. They're not just warriors, Limtar reported. They're something we've never encountered before. They understand warfare at a level that transcends anything in our historical records. Every human ship, every weapon, every tactical decision was perfectly coordinated. It was like fighting a single vast intelligence, rather than individual commanders. Velcroth knew he had to act. The Council couldn't ignore this. Summon Ambassador Jihei. We need to discuss what happens next. Jihei arrived at Harmony Prime with Admiral Taeyang and General Sang-ho. The three humans walked into the council chamber while every delegate watched in silence. Velcroth began. Ambassador, the council demands an explanation. You destroyed nearly 10,000 ships. You demonstrated military technology we specifically banned. We have violated nothing, Jihei interrupted calmly. Council Prime, we used defensive technology to protect our home world from an unprovoked invasion. The AI coordination systems were never covered under treaty because Earth never signed that treaty. We maintained protected status. Remember? We weren't full members with full obligations. Admiral Taeyang stepped forward. Your council knew the Kravenok were coming. You debated for a week and chose to do nothing. We defended ourselves because no one else would. You could have warned us about your capabilities, another delegate argued. General Sang-ho spoke for the first time. We told you we valued peace. We never said we couldn't fight. You saw what you wanted to see. That's not deception. That's your failure to understand us. Jihei addressed the full council. We are a species that has fought wars for thousands of years. We understand logistics, strategy, tactics, and coordination. We studied warfare because we had to. Because we fought each other and learned from every conflict. We value peace because we know exactly what war costs. Every ship we lost, every person who died defending Earth. Those aren't just numbers to us. They're families. They're futures that will never happen. We understand that cost. Intimately. She paused, letting her words sink in. You looked at our peace movements and thought we were weak. You saw our anti-war protests and assumed we were traumatized. You never asked why a species that understands war so completely would choose peace when possible. The answer is simple. We're not afraid of war. We're wise enough to avoid it when we can. But we're also prepared enough to win it when we must. The council chamber remained silent. Councillor Rixva stood. I propose a new designation for humanity. Not protected status. Not ward species. I propose that Earth be granted the status of protector species, with full military rights and the responsibility to help defend other council members who cannot defend themselves. Several delegates objected immediately, but Velcroth raised his hand for silence. The councillor has made a formal proposal. We will vote. The vote took hours. Some species remained suspicious of humanity. Others recognized that the galaxy had changed. Finally, the count came in. 12 species in favor, 20 opposed, 8 abstaining. The proposal failed. But then Velcroth did something unprecedented. As Council Prime, I invoke ancient privilege. I override this vote and grant humanity protector status immediately. We have spent too long debating while real threats emerge. The Kravenok attacked a council member with 10,000 ships, and we did nothing. We cannot afford that kind of paralysis anymore. The chamber erupted in arguments, but the decision was made. Jihei bowed respectfully. Earth accepts this responsibility. 3 months later, Captain Daesung stood on War Master Throck's prison cell. The once proud warrior looked defeated, his spirit broken. How did you survive? Throck asked. You're soft. Your culture celebrates peace and compassion. How did such a species become so skilled at war? Daesung considered the question. Because we're not soft. We choose compassion when possible. But we're also adaptable. We learn. We prepare. We understand that the galaxy isn't always peaceful. so we maintain the capability to defend ourselves and others. You should have been easy to defeat. You thought numbers were everything. But warfare isn't about numbers. It's about understanding your enemy, adapting faster than they can, and being willing to make the hard choices. We've been doing that for thousands of years. Throck closed his eyes. What happens to me now? You'll be tried for the attack on New Jeju and for the invasion of Earth. The Council will decide your fate, but your empire is finished. They know what happened here. They know they can't win through simple aggression anymore. Daesung left the cell and returned to the Odyssey. His ship had a new mission now. Not just exploration, but protection. Earth had established the Terran Defense Coalition, offering military support to species that couldn't defend themselves. Dr. Nari ran cultural exchange programs, helping aliens understand that humanity's complexity went beyond simple categories like peaceful or warlike. Engineer So-min shared defensive technology with allied species, carefully monitored to prevent misuse. Lieutenant Yoon-ha trained the first integrated fighter wing, with pilots from 15 different species learning to work together using human coordination techniques. On Harmony Prime, the Council underwent massive reforms. The old assumptions about how the galaxy worked had been shattered. Species could no longer be easily categorized. The simple division between warrior races and peaceful civilizations didn't reflect reality. Ambassador Ji-hye became the Council's chief mediator, helping resolve conflicts before they escalated to violence. She approached every situation with the same principle. Prefer peace, but never be helpless. The Odyssey departed Earth on a new exploration mission. Captain Daesung stood on his bridge, watching the stars. He recorded a log entry that would become famous across the galaxy. The Council thought we feared war. They were right. We do fear it. We fear it because we remember every war we've fought. Every lesson learned at terrible cost. Every innovation born from desperation and necessity. We don't seek conflict. We don't glorify violence. But we also don't pretend that peace is guaranteed, or that goodwill alone will protect the innocent. He paused, watching Earth shrink in the viewport. We explore the galaxy now, not as the Council expected, but as we truly are. Complex, adaptive, capable of great compassion and great violence. We prefer the first, but we're always prepared for the second. That's not weakness. That's not aggression. That's wisdom earned over thousands of years of human history. The ship engaged its faster-than-light drive, leaving Earth behind. Across the galaxy, humanity had finally found its place among the stars. Not as the peaceful farmers the Council had imagined. Not as bloodthirsty conquerors, but as something more nuanced and real. A species that understood both the value of peace and the necessity of strength. The galaxy was changing, and Earth, with all its contradictions and complexity, would help shape what came next.